Welcome to the Daily Review. This is Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. And today is November 2nd, 2023, and today is Thursday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, the U.S. markets rally after Fed Chairman Powell comes out with interest rate decision not to change and states that moving forward, we may be done with interest rate hikes. That was cheered by the markets, and the markets did rally. Now, looking at today's major economic events, so at 2 p.m. South African time out of the United Kingdom, we have an official bank rate decision. That's an interest rate decision for the UK. Also today, we have corporate earnings for Apple, and that'll be done for the major corporations. Now, looking at today's major markets, starting out with the Forex symbols, the major pairs pretty much unchanged while the Turkish Lira continues to slide. Looking at the U.S. markets, the indices, both the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ rebounded yesterday. And looking at commodities, gold remains unchanged while oil trickling lower. Now, looking at the stocks, the FAANG stocks were the ones that went the highest. And lastly, looking at cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin breaks out. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So I just want to reference this just for our sake. So we're looking at the Euro USD here, and you can see pretty much it didn't change much. We had a major FOMC rate statement yesterday, and it did not change. And this is why when you're trading the financial markets, you need to trade the asset most related to the news event. And in this case, it would have been the Dow Jones. So you could see in the Euro, didn't change much. But I want to highlight the GBP USD coming out with its official bank rate today. So this is really important. Now, it's in a very tight range, and I do expect it to move. So it could go either way. Just you need to know the levels, because especially if it breaks that 120-ish level, it could further go down. So keep that in mind. Now, looking at the Turkish Lira, continues to just slide lower. It's just short and hold. That's the strategy here from the Turkish Lira, and we've been looking at it ever since in June, July, when it did break that 18-ish level. If we look at that just a little bit on a longer time frame, you could see it. That was the point where it just continued to go lower, and for the past 6 months, it just has not stopped. Now, looking at the Japanese yen, it did have a correction, and then it corrected itself back on the upside. Now, looking at a daily chart, okay, it's right there. Okay, so you got to keep an eye on it, because this may still break out if we see further weakness in it. Now, jumping into commodities, gold remaining unchanged, mostly 1984. That's where it's holding, and I don't want to read too much into it, because it really just flatlined here, and so did crude oil, just tapering off, tapering lower, but not doing much, at least for now. Now, jumping into the U.S. markets, this is where it became very interesting. It's a news-driven event. The markets rallied after the news event, after Powell spoke, so that's to be expected, because there's some positivity in it moving forward. Now, looking at the NASDAQ also, it did gain nicely, 1486, which is a huge gain for the NASDAQ from 14,300-ish level. Now, jumping into the individual stocks, this is where it really gets interesting, because there were some that got stronger and some that got even stronger than that. So let's go from the strongest, the Amazon, breaking above that 133 to 133, right, to 137, continue to gap up, and that is continuing to gap up. Now, we do have resistance of 145, so keep that in mind. And we're going into the busiest season of the year in consumer spending, so this is really very important. Now, looking at the other majors that really jumped nicely, Facebook also. Those were the ones. These are the FAANG stocks, 311. Okay, that was a beautiful move just to make it on the rebound of about 30 to 40 bucks, as this is still making its comeback. ALCOA also made somewhat of a comeback the day before. Apple coming out with his corporate earnings today, 173, showing some strength, okay, but it's got to continue up on the upside if that's going to continue. Now, another one, AMD. Okay, now this is a huge chip maker, had a big gap up, and then continued going higher, as that has made a correction also. I'm not rooting the stock. I'm just saying that you could see how airborne this thing has gone, okay, in such a short time period on just day trading. So in terms of day trading, this is where you got to be. You got to be focused on the things that are trading nicely, and the U.S. markets are doing that right now. Now, let's get to the last of it. We're going to Bitcoin, which was in that very tight range, and I mentioned this many a time. It's trading in a very tight range, and then it just breaks out, and this is where it's at, 35,200-ish level. I wouldn't call it a breakout, but it's there, okay? It has that momentum to even lead us into the end of the year. Now, historically speaking, if you look at Bitcoin, it rallies into the end of the year. So we may have November, December, a nice rally for Bitcoin, and we may even hit 40K. So let's see if that happens. This is Fed Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.